So what in your conversations that you had for this piece is so wrong with giving out
Well,
participation
well,
trophies?
that's an interesting way to ask the question. Let's get out of the way early on, for the sake of fairness, that the parents who sign their kids up for these youth leagues and the parents who want trophies for their kids, they mean well. They mean well in that they don't want little Johnny's feelings to be hurt. They mean well because they see the smile on their kid's face when Nicole or Johnny wins a trophy. So they've got good intentions. But they're doing their kids, according to the experts, they're doing their kids more harm than good. Because when you're constantly rewarded, not for succeeding, by the way, you're getting a trophy for just showing up, literally, for just breathing, for just being, for being on the team. The team could finish in 7th place. You could have batted 0. You could have made 12 errors in 1 inning. You still get a trophy. Down the road, when these kids are ready to go to college or get a job, and they get a C, they fall apart. It's like, what? I know I'm better than a C. Well, why do you know you're better than a C? Because I've always been rewarded. So even though the intentions are understandable and arguably good intentions on the part of the parents, they're not doing their kids a lot of good.
But and many interesting parts to your piece, Bernard. One of them is that you had a handful of professors, researchers, even doctors draw a direct line from the trophy nation culture to, I guess, a ripping at the American societal fabric and how weak-minded maybe this generation is when they get out into the so-called real world. Did you believe the science and the conversations that you were having from these folks as fact in that regard?
It was pretty convincing. The argument on the other side is that it makes kids feel special. Well, okay, all right, maybe it does. When they're 7 and 8 and 10, maybe it does make them feel special. I doubt that, by the way. I doubt that a kid would feel special for getting a trophy for finishing in last place. So I don't have a great deal of confidence in that argument. But yeah, Rich, I did feel that the experts, the medical doctor who's a psychiatrist at the University of Washington in St. Louis, and the psychologist from San Diego State, and the researcher who has written extensively about this, yeah, it makes sense that if you are constantly rewarding your children, in essence, for not succeeding, then how are they going to learn that you have to succeed in order to get an A or a B, or you have to succeed to do well at a job? It becomes a kind of entitlement mentality. Hey, I'm entitled. I got these trophies when I was growing up, didn't I? Why? How come I'm getting a C now? How come the boss is yelling at me now?
Bernard.
So, yeah, I was. Let's say their arguments made sense to me.
Bernard Goldberg joining me here on the program, and the Trophy Culture segment and the rest of the latest edition of Real Sports can be seen anytime on HBO Go, HBO Now, and HBO On Demand. You can catch it tonight on HBO 2 at 11:30 p.m. Eastern. That would be tonight. So isn't this, though, when it all comes down to it, a parenting issue? That, sure,
Yes.
your 9, your 10-year-old does get a participation trophy, but if the 10-year-old comes home and says, I should be getting a B, or in your piece, there was a study that said that many college students thought they should just get a B for attending, quote-unquote, most classes on a college course. Isn't it just come down to a parent saying, yeah, you know what, look, welcome to the real world, pal. Just because you got a trophy in AYSO doesn't mean that the rest of the world works this way.
I totally agree. As a matter of fact, I got the feeling that even though the parents said we do this because the kids want it, I got the feeling that the parents wanted it more than the kids. I'll give you a personal story.
Sure.
When my daughter, who's a grown-up now, was just about 5 years old, she went to a day camp, a tennis day camp. She came home with a trophy, and casually, she didn't make any issue of it. walked over to the garbage can in the kitchen and dropped it into the garbage can and basically went about her business. And I said, whoa, wait a second. What'd you throw it in the garbage for? What was that about? And she simply said, this is a verbatim quote, they gave it to everybody. Now, that's pretty hip for a 5-year-old kid.
Mm-hmm.
But I think a lot of kids, when they get more than one or two or three, and some kids, you could buy a separate house just for the trophies, because sometimes they don't get it just at the end of the season. They get one each week for breathing and showing up. I think after a while, most kids get it. They know that they don't deserve it. The parents are something else. By the way, Rich, these leagues are businesses. And like all businesses, they cater to their customers. But if the parents said, this is ridiculous, we don't want kids getting trophies, I guarantee you these leagues wouldn't give out trophies. So it's the parents who would lead the revolt, and in fact have, in one case, in your city, where you are right now anyway,
mm-hmm.
in Los Angeles,
Yes.
One of the leagues, an AYSO soccer league, decided, hey, listen, for older kids, we're not going to give trophies. Some of the parents went out and bought trophies and gave them out to the kids on their own.
Yeah, I know.
That's how crazy this is.
I know, and those kids, I saw your piece, were 19 years of age.
Well, I thought I heard that wrong.
The look on your face.
As a matter of fact, after the interview, I said to the producer, no, we got that wrong, right? They weren't giving trophies to 19-year-olds. No, they were.
Now, but because my personal experience is the fact that my kid's about to turn 7. That's my oldest one. He just did hand pitch baseball for the first time. And by miraculous, let's just put this in some miraculous instance, a ground ball is hit to the second baseman. The kid, by all sorts of glory and miraculous glory, actually fields the ball and somehow makes an accurate throw to first base, and the first baseman, due to the heavens opening up, actually catches the ball before my son touches first base. There were some parents there who think that my son should be called out at age 6+. And so there's a flip side to this too, Bernie, right? When you think about it, where is the middle ground here in this trophy nation, where we start teaching life's lessons through sports, and we also keep them at some point interested by allowing them first base, even though they are technically out? By what age do you think, based on the conversations you have with these experts, is a safe age to start turning the page here?
Well, I think they said, like, if the kid's 5 or 6, give him a trophy, who cares? But, at some point after that, certainly by 7, you got to be more realistic. But it's important to understand that this didn't come out of thin air. This is the result of the self-esteem movement that began in the 1970s in this country. And kids were told that they were special. That's a word you hear a lot. And that, like some kids were doing exercises that said, I just met the most marvelous person in the whole world, just a wonderful person. It was me. And there's even a teacher in our story, that in our real sports story, that said, self-esteem is even more important than grades. Well, there have been other studies, and that was not in our story because our story was about sports, but there have been other studies that show that kids with incredibly high self-esteem are incredibly stupid when it comes to math, for instance. So there's no relationship between high self-esteem and high academic skills. So you could instill in kids all the self-esteem you want. That doesn't mean they're gonna be good at anything. It's just like, I think the reason the story has resonated, it just hits you as a common sense thing. How is it good? How is it good? Because it makes the kid feel good? Well, then I got an idea. How about give all kids A's? Give all the kids A's from first grade all the way through the 4 years of college, and in your case, Dr. Eisen, through our almost doctor,
Yes,
through
thank you.
graduate school. Well, you probably did get all A's from kindergarten on through.
No, I did not.
Through Medill, through
No.
the vaunted Medill School of Journalism. But how about that? You want people to feel good? How about that? How about double everybody's salary? Now, that's a good one. I'd be in favor of that.
Now is that the ultimate takeaway? Last question for you. What's the ultimate takeaway you want people to have watching your piece?
If you want kids to succeed, you have to be realistic and praise them for their effort, praise them for getting better. But if you give them a trophy or a gold star or reward just for showing up, you are doing your kids far more harm than good, according to people who are experts in this area.
The Rich Eisen Show, weekdays at noon Eastern. On Audience.